Dear students, today we are going to start with our new chapter in English literature, that is the three questions, chapter number 1. Now let's know about the author. The three questions written by Leo Tolstoy. Leo Tolstoy is a famous Russian author, a master of realistic fiction and one of the world's greatest novelists. Tolstoy is best known for his two longest works, that is, War and Peace and Anna Karenina. It is very amazing story. As we read the story, we will come to know how interesting it becomes. Before reading the chapter, I will tell the story. After that, we will start the reading. Listen carefully. This is basically a story about a king who is seeking answers of three questions. These are the three questions which he is looking for. But before moving forward, we will be focusing on why he is searching for three questions. There must be some reason he wants answer for these three questions. The reason why he wants the answer to these three questions is he thinks that if he gets answer to these questions, he will never fail and his kingdom never fail any aspect of his life. What were that three questions? The questions were: when is the right time to begin something? Second one, whom should he listen to? Third one, what is the most important thing to do? Here, the king sent messengers to look for the people who could answer these questions satisfactorily. Many wise men came and gave different answers to the king's questions. The king's first question about the right time to begin something. Some people suggested that the king should follow a timetable. Others recommend the king appoint a council of wise men to decide the best time to act. Some people suggested that the king consult magicians. Now let's see the king's second question. The king's second question is about whom he should listen to. The wise men said counselors, priests, doctors, and soldiers as the most important people. The king's third question is about the most important thing he should do. The wise men suggested the same: war or religious worship. Often the wise men contradicted each other and the king was not satisfied with their answers. Finally, he decided to approach a hermit. The king disguised himself in simple clothes and went to the forest where the hermit lived. He found the hermit digging the ground. The king put forth his questions to the hermit and asked the hermit what he thought. The hermit didn't respond and continued digging the ground. The king noticed that the hermit seemed tired, so he took over the digging. Whenever the king repeated his questions, the hermit ignored him. When it was dark, the king stopped digging and turned to the hermit again. Just then, a wounded man came running towards them. The man collapsed from weaknesses. The king cleaned the man's wound and they took him inside the hut. The next morning, the man revealed that He had come to kill the king and avenge his brother's death. He mentioned that the king's bodyguard had wounded him before he escaped. Since the king had served his life, the man promised to be a faithful servant to the king. The king was pleased and forgave the man for attempting to kill him. Before leaving, the king returned to the hermit and pleaded for the answers to his questions. The hermit replied that the king's questions had already been answered. He explained that if the king had not stayed back to help him with the digging, he would have gone away, and the man would have killed him. So the most important time was the time he spent for digging. The most important person was the hermit, and the most important business at that time was helping the hermit. Then, when the wounded man arrived, the most important time was the time spent caring for him. He was the most important person, and saving his life was the most important business. The hermit told the king that the most time is now. The most necessary person is the person you are with at the particular moment. And the most important business is to do that person's good. I hope you understood the story. Now let's read. Please take Mulberry book, chapter number 1, the 3 questions. Once upon a time there was a king who believed that he would be successful if he knew the answers to 3 questions. What was the right time to begin something? Who were the right people to listen to? And what was the most important thing to do? So he announced that the great reward would be given to anyone who could satisfactorily answer these questions. Wise men came to the king, but they all gave different answers. In reply to the first question, some said that to know the right time for every action, one must draw up in advance a table of days, months, and years, and must live strictly according to it. Others declared that it was impossible to decide beforehand the right time for every action. Hence, one should always do one's duty instead of wasting time in idleness. Others again said that the king should have a council of wise men who would help him fix the proper time for everything. Equally, various were the answers to the second question. Some said to the counselors were the most important people, others the priests, others the doctors, while some said the warriors were the most necessary. To the third question, what was the most important occupation? Some replied that the most important thing in the world was science. Others said it was skill in warfare, and others again that it was religious worship. All the answers were so different that the king could agree with none of them and gave the reward to none. But he still wished to find the right answers to the questions. He decided to consult a hermit, widely renowned for his wisdom. The hermit lived in a forest which he never left, and he welcomed only common folk. So, before reaching the hermit's cottage, the king put on simple clothes, got off his horse, and leaving his bodyguard behind, went on alone. The hermit was digging the ground in front of his hut. Seeing the king, he greeted him and went on digging. The hermit was frail. What is the meaning of frail? Frail means physically weak and thin. Each time he struck his spade into the ground and turned a little earth, he breathed heavily. The king went up to him and said, I have come to you, wise hermit, with 3 questions. How can I learn to do the right thing at the right time? Who are the people I need the most? And what work is the most important and needs my attention first? The hermit listened to the king but answered nothing and started digging again. You are tired, said the king. Let me take the spade and work a while for you. Thank you, said the hermit. And giving the spade to the king, he sat down on the ground. 1 hour passed, and then another. The sun began to sink behind the trees, and the king at last struck the spade into the ground and said, I came to you, wise man. I came to you, wise man, for an answer to my questions. If you can give me none, tell me so, and I will return home. Here comes someone running, said the hermit. Let's see who it is. The king turned around and saw a man come running out of the forest. There was blood flowing from a wound on his leg. When he reached the king, he fell to the ground, mourning feebly. The king washed the wound as best he could and bandaged it with his handkerchief and with a towel the hermit had. When at last the man felt better, the king brought fresh water and gave it to him. Meanwhile, the sun had set and it had become cool. So the king, with the hermit's help, carried the wounded man into the hut and laid him on the bed. Lying on the bed, the man closed his eyes and was quiet. The king was so tired from his walk and the work he had done that he crouched down on the threshold and fell asleep. When he woke up in the morning, he found that the wounded stranger was staring intently at him. Forgive me, said the man in a weak voice. When he saw that the king was awake and was looking at him, I do not know you and have nothing to forgive you for, said the king. You do not know me, but I know you. I am an enemy of yours who swore to revenge himself on you, as you wrongly took away my property. I knew you had gone alone to see the hermit, and I planned to ambush you on your way back. But you did not return, so I came out to find you. Your bodyguard recognized me. As I ran away, I fell and I was wounded. I should have bled to death if you had not nursed me. I wished to harm you, and you have served me my life. Now, if I live, and if you wish it, I will serve you most faithfully. Forgive me." The king was happy to have made peace with his enemy. He not only forgave him, but said he would send his own physician to treat him and promised to restore his property. Then the king went out and looked around for the hermit. He wished once more to beg an answer to his questions before leaving. The hermit was outside, sowing seeds in the beds that had been dug the day before. The king approached him and said, "For the last time, I pray you to answer my questions, wise man." "You have already been answered," said the hermit. "How answered? What do you mean?" asked the king. "Do you not see?" replied the hermit. "If you had not pitied my weakness yesterday, and had not stayed back to dig those birds for me, you would have been attacked by that man on your way back. So the most important time was when you were digging the birds. I was the most important person, and to do me good was your most important business. Afterwards, when that man ran to us, the most important time was when you were attending to him. If you had not bound up his wounds, he would have died without having made peace with you. So he was the most important person, and what you did for him was the most important work. Remember then, there is only one time that is right now. It is the most important time because it is the only time when we have any power. The most important person is the one with whom you are at the particular moment. No one knows whether you will ever meet anyone else in future. The most important thing to do is to do good, because for that purpose alone are we sent into this life. Let me ask 2-3 questions from the chapter. You just think the answer. Who went on digging? Can you give the answer? The answer is the hermit went on digging. What was this person digging? The hermit was digging the ground. Why had the king approached this person? The king came to the hermit to seek answer to his 3 questions. Dear students, please do the reading practice and find out the new words and write down the meaning. Thank you. Have a nice day.